this is going to be a super quick talk. I think everyone is low on energy and really excited to enjoy the performances. So what I was thinking of doing was, well, you know, like, wants to chill out and drink a beer and watch people perform, not someone talk for a long time. And so what I was thinking of doing, because we've talked about video circuits for a lot, is kind of replicate my Sunday night browsing habits in the form of a talk. Because that's what I do most of the time, is stalk video artists. And so, can I get a shout out from every X in the audience and every Y? Woo! I stole Phil's glasses to take this photo, but I was wearing them wrong, but it was supposed to be a reflection of video circuits in my glasses of me browsing, you know? So Derek made a very quick reference to Thomas Pynchon, and or however you pronounce his name, and I always thought this quote was kind of funny. So he like imagines this scope bar, and I kind of feel like we've created this bar where people are like listening to Stockhausen and watching oscilloscopes and hanging out, which I think is really funny. I find him very hard to read, but I like this quote. He also has some other stuff about oscilloscopes, but some of you may have noticed I've been picking my nose all the way through the festival, and that was in homage to this quote from the same book. So if anyone wants to have a nose picking contest later,
I think I'm aware of that.
Yeah, that's why. I wasn't just doing it because I'm a gross person. I mean, I am, but... so this is what used to be my studio before I just moved house, and as you can see, it's pretty full. And I like this meme of, you know, how much is your obsession with gear, a kind of lack of, you know, skill, it's compensation, but also this is kind of what this talk is about, because I have this kind of obsessive compulsive like need to collect obscure pieces of equipment, both video and audio, and it's the same with books about video art and this kind of work, and it's the same with people. So this talk is kind of about me collecting both historic and modern people in the same way that I collect synthesizers. You're all just objects to me. Cybernetics. So the first thing I tried when I got into oscilloscopes was to try and find the little sparkly snake inside them. And so I chipped this open, and there was just like hurty dust that got in my eyes. No, that's not true. This is a slide of one of the vector monitors I have, and it arrived like this. I knew it was broken, and I bought it for the body. And then this is me the process of replacing them, which I kind of shared on social media, but I haven't put anywhere else. But this is getting I have like a bunch of them, and everyone here knows this kind of search of trying to find one without a graticule so that you can do rescanning. So you can see here like a tiny, tiny little dot. This was the success after I managed to do this transplant. I thought this was funny because it kind of references what Joost was saying about Mary Shelley, and like in a tiny way, and kind of also about this kind of gear hoarding, of like trying to find all these pieces of equipment to see what they're like and try things that you haven't really seen. I really love TV, but we didn't get one until I was quite old, of like a hand-me-down TV, and I was like super obsessed with it because we didn't have one before, and when I was a kid. And yeah, I definitely think there's something about like all this electronic stuff that's like very beguiling. So this is like 6 HP vector monitors I keep under my bed. Maybe I'll do like an RGB stereo rescanning rig that's incredibly impossible to align or something, or maybe some workshops or an exhibition like Tate was doing. I don't really know, but I bought them because they were there. A bit like Ghost's tubes, but at least he has an actual plan to do something with them. This is the Innisfree Picasso, which I wanted to bring to show you guys so we could look at the circuit and figure out how it works. But it was used in like perception research and like psychology, and it synthesizes kind of a variable frequency raster, and then you can, which is, you know, the zigzag across the screen for people who don't know that like is how normal video works, but it's not fixed to any rate, and then it does these kind of cool effects. This is just like a simple pattern-based overlay. This is on a Tetromix vector monitor. This is like a really interesting rotation type thing. And there are lots of peripherals you can get for it, like the, so like the dual stereogram generator, which does something stereoscopic. I've never found one, but I'm searching for one. Don't anyone try and get one on eBay before me, because I will hunt you down on bad even video circuits. So I just wanted to make that very clear. This is, I'm in it for just the gear. So this is, once I finished college, where I hadn't done so much work, I was like sad. So I was like, I have to keep doing research. I didn't really do the ideas I wanted to do. So I made video circuits. And this was my first post, being like, this is what this is going to be, which is like very big for my boots. But it went on for quite a long time, and lots of people emailed me while I was doing it. And at the same time, Sabrina Tate was doing a blog called Diamond Variations, so we got to know each other. She's a video artist from Canada, but I think she's now based in Paris. And some people here might know her, but she does really beautiful work, but her blog was also really good at finding old video artists, and we kind of had a little bit of a rivalry of like, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And she was one of the first people from the community I met who was doing the same kind of, like, actually producing work unlike me, but she was doing the same kind of like trying to find old stuff and people to talk to and interview and that kind of thing. And also Jennifer Stratford in LA, she had a blog called Telefantasy, which was the same kind of thing. She's also really interested in like the history of like TV effects and stuff, and so I've met both of them in real life. Like both Sabrina came to stay with me when she was touring in London, and JJ had some friends in London, so we met up, and they were like the first two people I met from like the video circuitsy type video synthesizer world, and they were super influential on me, so I thought I'd give them a shout out on their blogs, but I haven't shown them here. But that's kind of how it started, and it was like much slower. I do like one thing a week, or like find one thing online and post something, and then I kind of made it into this, which is a Facebook group. And the reason I made it into a Facebook group is so I could stalk older video artists and get them to talk to younger video artists and people who are doing this type of work. And so I spend a lot of my time answering questions or like finding people to add to the group who I found in magazines from the 70s or the 80s, and writing to them and saying, hey, your kids have made you get this group, get Facebook, would you join my group and talk about your work? Do you have any work left that we can see? Because I have this one photo for a magazine. And that type of stuff. So I just searched for like Derek Ivan vectorhack because I wanted to see what was up here. So there's like some TED stuff and like people asking questions.
Chris,
Yes.
That's about the date, maybe the same one when we actually get the initial chat about the reading festival.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, this is July, no. Sorry, yeah. This is a month later.
Cool, but anyway, so, and there's quite a lot of members you can see, and like 6,000 or something, and then most of them are super casual and don't contribute, but there's like a really strong core of people that do. And vectorhack definitely doesn't come out of video circuits alone, but I feel like some of the people here know each other from there, which is really nice. Facebook is a horrible platform, but the positive thing is lots of older video artists, like I said, families can get Facebook so they can share photos of grandchildren, and that means you can stalk them when they don't have anyone like presents anymore, which is really useful. So that kind of turned into an obsession while the blog was still going on as well. Like some of this photo dates from when the blog was kind of more prominent than video circuits at the top, but these ones all down here are workshops and things this is at Brighton Modular Meet doing a chav workshop, Jonas's design. Up here there was a Venerable exhibition in London, so I gave a demonstration and a talk about how their techniques worked, which is really lovely to be asked to do from it. But that's kind of like the productive side of it. Most of it, and what this talk is about, is kind of browsing online and finding things and then sharing them, which isn't really an end in itself, but it's like a nice thing to do. But it kind of links back around like a feedback loop. And so I picked out like mostly vector-based stuff to talk about. Okay. So, this is really nice. So there's this cartoonist who's very famous in France for inventing aerial photography, Nadir, and which his real name's up here, but I'm not going to try and say it, and he kind of imagined the phonograph before the phonograph was invented, and he called it the phonograph, but he thought that Le Séjour, or however you say his name, was the kind of realization of this thing. So what we're all kind of playing with, this like audio-visual visualization and kind of like looking at sounds, he thought that would be the way to record sounds, so it was kind of like analogous to photography. And so I love this kind of idea that that didn't happen. That was like a little vestigial limb that never kind of became a full limb of technology, but maybe that's kind of what we're playing with all this oscillographics and vector-based stuff. Yeah, I just think that's an interesting quote, so I put it in there. Then, this is another interesting thing. We've got to the bit which is just me browsing the internet now. This is just like random stuff. There's not really a point at the end. It's a list of things. So I'm going to be really quick. Cycloidotrope, you put it into a magic lantern, it's like a spirograph but with soot. You project it. The thing I like about it, this slide down here, you project it into a room like a lot of the stuff that we're doing. So it's kind of a, it's a performance, like slowly the drawing appears in the light. There are lots of other abstract magic lantern slides as well from this kind of time. You can get things called chromatropes, which are like interference patterns, a bit like Jordan Belson's work that Phil was talking about. But it was like, they're super beautiful too. You could put these into chromatrope slides so you can mix the colour with the vector. They were doing the same kind of stuff really early on. We're talking about cybernetics. Alexander Graham Bell was trying to teach deaf kids how to speak, which kind of links in. He was using the bone of a human ear as the transducer in his phonautograph. So you would talk into it. He didn't invent the phonautograph. There was a French guy who invented this machine, but Bell's one used a real human ear bone to draw. So it's kind of human loop computing. Or circuit bending. You find something good that already works, and then you modify it for the thing you want to do. It's only, it's, I like it as an example. I just put that to gross people out, really. And then this, again, just like a really beautiful thing that I love as an idea, is the Williams-Kilburn tube, which writes onto the CRT as the bits of memory in a digital system, and then the charge on the top of the tube is readable for a very short time. And I just like it as an idea. I don't really know why I put it in, but it's a cool thing. I haven't linked it to anything. I mean, it's about kind of memory and video, I guess. We were talking about earlier. Cybernetics, which I found on a blog called Paleo Future, which is kind of about kind of like past future type archaeological stuff. But Yost, I think, found some more patents by him and sent me them online after I posted this, and like actual new stuff, which is really cool. He was working super early at RCA in New York, and he made all these different patterns. I really like this kind of, video synthesis and manipulation of both raster and vector stuff was kind of existing this early. It's kind of interesting to see. There were some opportunities. This was in the RCA lab, so you can understand why it was easier and it happened less, because the technology wasn't around to play with so much. So, coming back again to video circuits, Bob Lewis was a contributor to video circuits. He was like an early video artist in the 70s. I don't have to read all this, but this is like him contributing stuff. Sadly, he recently passed away, but he digitized all his stuff and posted it on video circuits on YouTube. And there's another member of video circuits that got all his light show stuff to archive, which is really nice. I don't know if any of his video tapes or his equipment survived, or what's happened to that, but I really like that some of his stuff is going to be saved and they met on video circuits, which I think is a really cool thing. And I'm going to show a really quick clip. The Adage graphics terminal, which is like a digital analog hybrid system, he had access to this, his friend got a job there, and they made a bunch of tapes together as the Northlight Collective. And this is them talking to each other.
Okay, Drew, you want to zoom in?
Yeah, am I off?
Yeah. You guys are flickering. Be careful what you're doing. Don't get too fancy. Plenty of time.
The flickering does by itself. That's imminent system collapse.
Focus streak. All right.
Oh, beautiful. Hold on. I can disappear in the background, but then hold on. That's we're okay.
Can you zoom in, Charles?
Yes.
With good focus and so on and so forth?
Anyway, that's a super beautiful piece, and there's a version of it which has the sound added, but this is them working on it and producing it in the studio. He had that as an open reel tape that he found, and he knew that he was going to pass away, so he was digitizing all his work and working out how to pass it on. And I just think that's really cool that he managed to do that, and You should check out his YouTube channel, Venerable Video Circuits. I posted his work back in 2013 on the blog before he joined Video Circuits as well. So I'd already found like some of his stuff that he'd been uploading. So I wanted to mention Kursolander, who's a Finnish artist who I can't pronounce the name, and Bo Wickstrom, who were a bit like Namjoon Paik and Shure, except Namjoon Paik saw these guys doing wobulator stuff before he did wobulator stuff. And it's on the ETC website. Not many people know about it. I'm just going to show it very quickly. If you don't know what wobulator is, it's taking a normal TV with a normal video signal and using deflection coils or magnets to mess around with the horizontal and vertical so you get these wobbly effects. Namjoon Paik used this a lot. I think it's really interesting that it was going on in other places too. This broadcast was supposed to be satellite broadcast to America, but it didn't work out. But some of his films were shown in the UK on broadcast TV and in Europe, I think Sweden and Finland. But yeah, I'm a bit sketchy of details. But then Bro Wickstrom also produced these kinds of computer images later in his life. And like last time I was Googling him, these came up on an auction site, and I think it's good. I think I found out that he passed away. But super interesting kind of short-lived work. Tur has a really angry website about he was passed over as the kind of pioneer of video art, but he didn't produce a lot of work, but the work he produced was early. Derek mentioned Walter. Walter's an expert in stereo cinema. He does like stereo 3D cinematographic performances. He has lots of like circuits and stuff on his site. If you email him, he can send you loads of really interesting stuff. It's called Hologlyphics. He knows loads about the early history of like stereoscopic cinema in Russia and all the different systems they were using. And he is one of the places I got lots of information about. So the guy who invented the Scanimate, Lee Harrison III, also invented the Animac. And I can't remember if someone's already talked about this, but they definitely talked about the Scanimate. So the Animac was earlier, and it started off just being called the bone generator. And it was a system that had some sensors. It was all valve-based, and they started off with 8 bones, which you can't do much with. Maybe a snake, or like a really badly drawn stick man, a lot of stuff. But the reason I mention it is the way they generated the bones is just like Chris and Hansi's work on how to draw a mushroom on an oscilloscope with the spirals, which I love that these ideas are being revisited in different ways and re-explored, which has been like a massive theme of vectorhack. I can't remember again if anyone's shown this video, but I wanted to show it because it's funny. So this is like a real live real-time sensor suit. It's attached to Animac, which creating these animations. And it's in like, that started out in 59, I think, 58. And did anyone show this, Mr. Computer Image?
No, none of these.
Hello, folks. I'm Mr. Computer Image, or ABC. I'm generated by a computer, and I think it's only proper that I announce the computer results on election night. My mouth is made to move by my voice. The rest of me moves because some guy in a harness moves. He's my anthropometric programmer. Whatever he does, I do. My mouth can be made to talk by anyone's voice. Here are some examples.
Anybody who believes that these characters mentioned in the democratic process is deluding himself. I was 14 years above that hearing last night. These sweet little girls with their Sunday expresses that we heard described moments ago. And the track between 11 o'clock and 5 o'clock in this morning from 4 or 5,000 voices was sheer utter obscenity directed at the President of the United States and the mayor of this city.
Anyway, he wasn't part of like any kind of experimental scene. He then went on to develop the Scanimate, and he also then went on to develop even more hybrid digital analog systems that you could look into. I have some work from people who worked on Scanimates. What were you saying? Is that what it's called? Yeah, I forget the name. But he was kind of like a really interesting, I like the fact that he wasn't part of this kind of experimental artistic scene that all of these other things were part of, and he was kind of trying to make money, but he still ended up making these really weird systems and tools that had some real-time applications. And he, well, I have a bunch of work from people who made stuff in their downtime, late at night on the scanmate systems. So one guy from the London scanmate sent me a bunch of stuff. He was a Canadian. I think he won a visual music award recently, but I haven't got any of his stuff to show. But I can send it to you if you want.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, Bill Hearn, also super interesting. I found this photo today on like an educational like tutorial website published by the Exploratorium. He used to, but they haven't referenced who took it or what it is. But it's the like the first video. The Exploratorium was like the first experimental museum where you could interact with these different exhibits, and you could do real science experiments for yourself, replicate the results, and then hopefully you'd learn about the world. And they started with any kind of organisation except roughly grouping them into different zones. And then slowly they built themselves up into this kind of institution. And so Bill was there, like a curator there, but with their in-house technician for a lot of their lecturing stuff, and he built the Vidium, which was an early vectorgraphic display. And then he went on to build, there's a, wait, for taking a photo. Don't take a photo of the...
No, I want to take a photo of you real.
This is my hair, so I thought there was some correlation there too. With, when I used to have hair. But the Vidium went on to become a much more advanced system, and I thought what was interesting about the Vidium is it uses the phase between the X and Y to dictate colour on a colour vector monitor. I thought some people would be interested in that. Other than that, like it was in the Ars Electronica exhibition, you can find it in Silver's book about video synthesizers. It's kind of interesting to read on their site as well. You can download loads of stuff for free about it. It was quite a complicated system, and they made a bunch of tapes, which I'm sure some of you have seen. These were called like the Loog video tapes, which were these combinations. They had a bunch of collaborators. I'm not going to show all of this, but I think you get the point. Really beautiful stuff using feedback, but I don't think there's that much colour stuff available online. F.C. Judd is a British guy who was really prolific in publishing amateur radio stuff. He also started a really early electronic music venue in London, like super early, like very late 1950s, early 1960s. But he published a bunch of stuff about his chromosonic system in hobby magazines, which generated colour oscillographic patterns using a colour wheel, like Ben F. Leposki's work that's been mentioned earlier. There's a guy in Brighton, the UK, Ian Halliwell, who made a short film about him and did a lot of research. But you can see the colour wheel here, which you sync to the images. So you can choose when an image is displayed that you want to be red. It will be the red filter that's going past it. So it's, it works the same way as syncing all of these other signals together, but it's a physical thing that you're syncing. Here's like the inside of the TV. I think some of us have been there, They were probably scarier then. But Ian's website has a link to a clip of the film, and if there's a screening, I really recommend going and seeing it. It's a really interesting film. He's also got an amazing book called Tate Leaders, because there are all these amateur music concrete societies all over the UK, like there were remote control car societies or these kind of things. And he's tracked down like some composers as well that were working independently in the UK, sort of outside of any kind of academic or commercial context. It's a really lovely book. Definitely Auram I mentioned, because the Auramix machine, although it's a painting on a film machine, which is something else a lot of us here are also interested in, it's kind of graphical sound history. The audio oscillators, the sound generators are CRT tubes, and I think these are photodiode, but you paint on a slide, and the beam then follows the pattern you've painted, and that creates the sound, and then you sequence by painting on the film. And I thought that was a really nice thing. It's kind of the flip end of vector-based stuff. And so, a really nice demonstration, Nick Collier has a website called Nick's World of Synths. He's a super eccentric, crazy guy. He was in a glam rock, kind of punky glam rock band that got into the charts in the UK. He makes these very weird, like microtonal synthesizers and like big spring reverb arrays and things.
What band?
Yeah, like I can't remember what they were called. They were called something pink. But like, lots of hair and very skinny jeans. But he's like, they had one song, and then he now just like makes synthesizers on his own. Well, that's what he was doing last time I emailed him. But so he has like this tutorial where I think he's used a photo multiplier tube pointing at an oscilloscope, and he has this very simple like feedback thing going on, and it creates these beautiful. Stuff as well. And he experiments with putting an envelope through to scan the image. And you can do all sorts of stuff. But I just found out today Stephanie has a book, she's left now, but she has a book coming out in German, I think, about experiments with 3 different people experimenting with this technique to generate wavetable synthesis. I can't read German, but I'll get a German friend to read it to me. I'll find that information somehow. Richard Monkhouse, he invented the MS Spectron. I emailed with him back and forth a bit. He was in this really early performance audio-visual group called VAMP, which standard for visual and audio music performers, I think. So there's 2 audio musicians, 2 video musicians, very similar to what we've been doing here, like what Kiki More and have been, like the collaborations that have been going on. Peter Dunbauer, over here, this is the Video Carlos, which is like a video mixer and video colorizer. Played that. Richard played a thing called Cortec, which was, which was called, Cortec, which was like a oscillographic generator. It has some really interesting features which I've highlighted that I thought people who were interested in analog stuff would be interested in seeing or talking to him about. I haven't had a response from him for a while, so I'm kind of worried he might have passed away because he's quite old, but I've hung out with Peter quite a lot, interviewing him about the video cards, which he designed with Richard, but I've never put any of that stuff online because it was really badly shot. But email Richard and tell him you like his work. His website is easy to find. You might not get a response. This image is some of his computer art, but he's super friendly and a genius. Like he did things in sort of a weird way, like opposite to other people.
Did you ever find any images from the Cortex?
No. So this is frustrating. Like here, this is probably it. This monitor isn't it because these 3 cables trace back to the video cards, as far as I can tell. So this he had a vector monitor, but so I've like looked really hard at these images and emailed him to ask a bunch of times. There was also EMS, the company Richard worked for in the UK. It was then bought by a guy in Bristol who was a very famous composer. And there was another guy who invented a vector system, and I tracked down 2 photos of that, but they're very low quality, so I didn't share them. But I'm slowly on the hunt for more like... and he had like a colour wheel, just like FC Judd at the front of the monitor to do colorization. So like these things, there's like super obscure stuff that you can find like 1 or 2 things about. And if you're a total obsessive about collecting these things, you can email people about them. Zoran Radovic, who I think is Hungarian or German?
No, Zoran Radovic is Bulgarian.
Is he? I didn't know that.
This is just...
Yeah.
Zoran Radovic.
So his website went offline, and he sold a bunch of stuff. Did he pass away?
I think I asked Fritz about it, and yeah.
So Derek, I think I was talking to about this, and also, what's your friend called who does the...
Darsha Hewitt found this.
Yes, and Darsha found
he was
this
selling all this stuff.
and posted it on video circuits, or he posted it online. And so I went and saved a bunch of images from his website because he was selling off a bunch of stuff from his studio, and like images, vector-based stuff, drawings he'd made, and there was a picture of some equipment in the background, so I was like, I'll Google this guy's name. And he developed this, which is the ornamentogram, so like oscilloscope generator, a laser.
This is in Serbo-Croatian, the Kronski ornamentogram. It's,
Nice.
So it's definitely...
But his website's gone offline now, which is really sad. But my favourite thing is this patch sheet. So these are the knobs on the system, and then these are the knob positions. I know you can't see because it's too much attention, and these are the shapes that relate to each one. So he's kind of gone through and systematically done this, which I think is really cool. But his website's got.
Is his site accessible at all through?
You can find bits of it on the Wayback Machine, but not all of it. And I'm sure there's books I haven't found yet that have some of this stuff in. And he's mentioned on some like early computer art websites. These images I pulled back off videocircuits just because I posted them on the blog. But yeah, it was your friend Eric who alerted me to that. So I thought it was interesting that that's how I find things, by people coming to me.
Sorry, I just want to say something else, and I don't have the microphone anymore, so I'm just going to yell. I took my microphone away. This kind of a project would be really interesting to find local researchers, because there was such good these hobbyists electronic magazines that existed during Yugoslav times that reproduced a lot of stuff. Also, there is found this kind of oscilloscope graphic artist. But
I think this is something that can be undertaken by Svetlana Maroš, because she's local in Belgrade, and she's running this as her job. So you are a resident with her, right?
That would be so cool. Yeah, it's almost over now.
It doesn't hurt yet. Keep going.
Yeah, so Christian Günther, I really like his project, which draws onto the plotter. I think the aesthetic looks really different to a lot of other people. I know it's similar imagery, but I really like these kinds of patterns. I think they look really ancient, and it's kind of cool. He's like a contemporary person. But you should definitely check out his work. Grant Richter, who is kind of responsible in some parts for the resurgence of modular synthesis being popular. He had a company called Ward, which is now owned by someone in the UK, but Wyard, I don't know how to pronounce it, weird synthesizers. But he combined lots of West Coast and East Coast American synthesizer ideas and some of his own ideas, and made really lovely. Hey, why don't I have reverb? And I want to sound way more godlike. So this is a vector synthesizer prototype he made down here, which isn't online, but I messaged back and forth with Jason, who is the reason I think everyone knows about the Fulsom stroke to raster converters. He got one really early, let me know, and I think I let other people know that they existed. He's working on some Eurorack modules right now, which he shared with me. He also has this crazy experimental media lab full of NIM modules and he's a really interesting guy. I think he just goes around America in a bus and lives away from the media lab now. I remember hearing a story about a Fluxus artist who petitioned to get a studio and then left on a rope and never came back, and that was their piece. And it's kind of like that. He's built this giant media lab and now he doesn't have access to it. It makes me laugh. But yeah, I thought it was interesting to show this because it's not kind of well known. They also built a direct video synthesizer that was synced to this, so that they were generating the vector XY signals and the RGB signals concurrently. Paloma, who we've talked a bit about, who would be amazing if she could be here maybe next year, has done lots of vector rescanning work, a bit of oscilloscope stuff for a long time. She's now studying at Alfred. I went up to visit the experimental video studio in New York State in Alfred, and I stayed with her when I was in New York a bit, and I stayed with Jonas, and we visited lots of other cool video synthesizer stuff like the Ratetra, which people have already gone over, so I'm not going to mention it.
I'm sorry, but I was not aware that Paloma was doing these things until recently.
Yeah, I think she only published them quite recently, but it's I've seen some of them.
They're great.
But I wanted to put them up because I think it's cool to share. And then Anthony, who lives near London, I met him at a modular synthesizer meet, but he has also produced work at ZKN, and he works on really nice drawing and sound projects. I think we have some similar ideas. There's just this really lovely discrete image rotator. and does lots of kind of Rosetta style work. He sent me these pictures because I asked him, because I wanted to include him. So these are some contemporary people that I wanted to mention whose work I think is interesting in this kind of area, after mentioning a bunch of historic people. And these are all the people that I will spend my Sunday night Googling and saving images from, and then saving those, and then sharing those to video circuits. And that was basically what the talk is about. That's it. So this is from William Moritz's book about Oscar Fischinger, and it's written by John Cage when he studied with Oscar Fischinger, or helped out a bit around the studio, and I think it's really pretty. So I thought I'd end with that, because I think that's what kind of is my overlying, not to get too emotional, but my overlying kind of inspiration. That's been shared around a bit already in video circuit stuff, but when I finished the Oscar Fischinger book, I was like, I like this. This is a nice, concise poem. Thanks for these. Everyone who's done sound, everyone who's recorded stuff, all the people that have come and done this for free, or given their time to do this, is amazing. And thank you to Derek